did you happen to see the stories about what's going on with some of the ESA voucher money?
Yeah, and there's a lot of money that we're not sure if people are going to have enough to actually take advantage of them, whether they can. There's a lot of let's say investigation that might need to be done. I don't mean formal investigation. No.
Audits.
I'm not talking about regulation. Just talking about let's just ask some questions.
Yeah, it's funny you say. I'm not talking about regulation. It is so interesting to me that we all agree that we should trim the fat, that bureaucracy is too big, that we're wasting money on but then we do. And then all of a sudden things slip through the cracks and we say, wow, we need more people. We need to spend more money. We need to have auditors. We need to grow the bureaucracy. It feels like a never-ending cycle, doesn't it? I'm not a purist at all. That's why if you're in one philosophy or the other, God bless you. But you're going to run into a lot of problems because if you want small G government, hey, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
If you want big G government, I kind of understand where you're coming from. But I don't understand how you're really going to get to either one and have it be successful because in most things, there's got to be some give and take in the middle.
I agree. And this is why the latest story is parents bought gift cards with ESA voucher money. That, according to State School Superintendent Tom Horn, who, by the way, will be on Arizona's Morning News tomorrow just after 6 a.m. So Tom Horn says that his department needs more people, which means we got to have more money. And why is that? Because I'm sorry, Steve. Every time I see a story like this, it just busts my faith in humanity because we could see it coming a mile away. You're going to start handing out money to people, and you're going to say, you should spend this on school expenses. And then they say, what's a school expense? They go, I don't know, whatever you might need for school. And there are no parameters. There's very little in the way of auditing. And then after the fact, we're catching up, and we go, wow, I can't believe that this whole program is rife with fraud. Weird.
I'm not sure if how much listenership day-to-day you have. If anyone was listening yesterday, I brought up jet ski in a different context. There were jet skis involved in this as well.
That's a good point.
How is that a school-related thing?
Jump houses and all kinds of things that were being spent on this. So the latest in an October meeting with educational leaders, this is from our friends at Channel 12, Horn said there are simply not enough workers to keep up with demand. Parents on ESA chat rooms have complained about waiting months to get expenses reimbursed. The wait times put lower-income families in a bind because they don't have the financial means to go long stretches without getting reimbursed. The ESA is, of course, the Empowerment Scholarship A's.
AKA vouchers.
The voucher program, right. Which means you can take... The logic behind it makes sense to me. And that is, I'm paying in to... My taxes are going to pay for school. I got a kid. Why does my kid have to go to a certain school when my taxes don't necessarily have to go to that certain school? The taxes go into a state fund. The state then reallocates it. I want my taxes to go where I want my kid to go. That makes sense to me. Like, I understand that. Until I start to scrutinize it a little bit. Could we not apply that to anything that our taxes are being spent on? Coming up after 3 o'clock, we're going to talk about Prop 479, okay? Prop 479 is the extension of the half-cent sales tax that built the 202, the 303, the 101, anything that is a loop, it built that. And the parallel here is, if I'm paying a sales tax, shouldn't I be able to say I want my road fixed before you do something in East Valley, West Valley, North Phoenix, South, somewhere where I don't live? Shouldn't I just be able to direct my money exactly into my world alone? Why do my tax dollars have to go to the Phoenix Police Department in order to clean up crime in the zone? I don't live near the zone.
Wow, so basically you're just completely taking apart civilization.
Well, this is the argument about socialism, right? The redistribution of wealth into these different places, but that's kind of the argument that was going on with ESAs, is this is socialism. You're taking my tax dollars, my wealthy neighborhood, my high property tax area, and you're giving it to low-income school districts.
So that's where I lose faith in humanity in a little bit different way than you're doing. And the idea that people are taking this money and they're just spending on whatever, and it affects lower-income families because where's all this money going to come from? For me, where I lose faith in it comes down to me being a do-gooder, sort of. Okay. Not actually in how I live my life. Just my philosophy is that absolutely, you're paying taxes. This doesn't mean that our schools are run well. Not saying that, but
two different things,
conceptually, the idea is that in order to create a community and create a society where people can somehow kind of get along, it's that taxes help pay for roads, they help pay for schools. Doesn't mean you always have to agree with where the road went or who the teacher is, but generally at the top, that's why we have government.
Yeah, organizational.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally organizational. So the story goes on from our friends at 12 News here. The story goes on to talk about how an unintended consequence of the backlog is cases of alleged fraud. It may be an unintended, but it wasn't an unforeseen consequence of the whole thing. I mean, all the critics said this is going to be used for fraud.
Well, there's going to be some in every situation.
And
So,
I
yeah,
understand
yeah.
that, right? Okay, so that's kind of built in. It's sort of like if you open a retail store, you know that you're going to have a certain amount of loss, right? People are going to steal things. You're going to have something fall off a truck. There's a certain amount that you kind of build in, 1-2%.
Cost of doing business, right?
It's just what it is, right? So, and I'm okay with that. I get it. Horn said his office attempted to streamline reimbursements earlier this year by allowing automatic reimbursements for purchases $75 and less. Doesn't that just allow me to figure out that as long as it's less than $75, I can spend my...
And you can just keep running them up, right?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. This is one of the big arguments about crime in California. Is they said, well, they raised the threshold for a felony from whatever it was, $200 up to $1,000. And now people are just stealing a lot of things under $1,000. Data doesn't back that up. And by the way, if you see somebody going into an Apple store, it's not like they're going, I would like the Apple iPhone 16. I don't want the 16 Pro Max because that would put me into a felonious theft. So if you can just get me the 16 from behind the counter, that'd be great. No. They're smashing, they're grabbing, they don't care. But the argument is they know they can get away with it because it's cheap. Couldn't we apply that same logic here to people that are saying, how many times can I go to Amazon and spend $75 or less, and then it doesn't show up on the radar? And that's what people are doing. Administrators discovered 7 account holders who bought about $13,000 worth of Amazon gift cards.
Yeah. I mean, really, the concept is if you do it a couple of times, why not do it a couple more times, right?
Of course.
And that's just starts to, if it's still under 75, okay, that's, we're not, and if there aren't enough people to check out who is spending that $75 they shouldn't, then it never stops.
But therein lies the issue, right? And that's what Horn says. Tom Horn, the superintendent of schools, again, he'll be on tomorrow morning, Arizona's Morning News, a little after 6 a.m. He says we got to have more people. And I asked the legislature for more money to get more people, to make sure that the money isn't being wasted. How much money are we going to spend? As I said, cost of doing business, right? How much more money are we going to spend to stop $13,000 worth of theft? Right. It is outrageous that you have people that are buying jet skis. It's outrageous that you have people that are buying bounce houses. It is outrageous that these things are going on. And it is outrageous that we have maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent. But hundreds of thousands of dollars amounts to what? 3, 4, 5 employees who are going to be auditing these things, keeping an eye on it? How many more people do we need in order to watch all the different potential fraud that's going on? How many different departments do we have to have? How many different benefits do we need to start paying?
Well, that's a certain kind of fraud. There are probably other aspects of fraud that might need to be looked at too.
And if that's the case, does that show that maybe the ESA program is not all that it was being sold to be?